"Fill it, my man," the giant bride whispered. "Only you," he growled, pressing deeper into her. The advertisement had cost Timmy Reeves his last $3, money he desperately needed for seed. But desperation makes poor accountants, and Timmy was nothing if not desperate. The notice ran in 6 territorial newspapers. Homesteader seeks strong wife, hard work guaranteed, weak constitution, honest heart, Arizona territory. He'd been honest about the weak constitution, 26 years old and built like a scarecrow, prone to fevers, barely strong enough to manage his 40 acres alone. The farm was failing. The barn needed repairs he couldn't manage. The well pump had broken, and he lacked the strength to fix it. And looming over everything was the mortgage held by Vernon Snake Malone, the territory's most successful rancher and most enthusiastic bully. Timmy had 90 days to make the payment or lose everything. He needed help. He needed a miracle. He'd settle for a wife strong enough to work the land while he managed what little he could. When the response came, a single line in careful script, "I am strong, I will come, Bertha." Timmy had wept with relief. Now, standing outside the Salvation Point Stage Depot on a blistering August afternoon, watching the coach roll in trailing dust, Timmy wondered if he'd made a catastrophic mistake. Around him, townspeople gathered with the morbid curiosity reserved for public spectacles. Everyone knew about Timmy's mail-order bride. Snake Malone had made sure of that, holding court in the saloon about the desperate weakling who couldn't even find a wife without paying for one. The stage door opened. A hand emerged, massive, work-worn, capable. Then a boot, larger than any woman's boot Timmy had ever seen. Finally, the woman herself unfolded from the coach's interior, rising to a height that made grown men step back. Bertha stood 6'9" in her stockinged feet, taller in the worn boots she wore. Her shoulders were broader than Timmy's by half. Her arms showed muscle definition that would have made a blacksmith envious. She wore men's work trousers under a garment that made the gathered crowd gasp and then titter. A wedding dress. Not a new dress, not even a well-maintained one. This was a gown that had seen hard years. The white faded to uncertain ivory, lace hanging in tatters, the skirt shortened and patched, the bodice straining across a frame it had never been designed to contain. She wore it like armor, like a statement, like a challenge to anyone who dared comment. Her face was angular and weathered, framed by dark hair pulled into a severe bun. When her eyes found Timmy, identified by his obvious nervousness and the wilted flowers he clutched, something flickered across her features. Not quite disappointment, more like resigned recognition. She crossed to him in 3 strides, her hand extended. "Timmy Reeves?" "Yes, ma'am." His voice came out as a squeak. Her hand engulfed his completely. "I'm Bertha. Where's the farm?" "About 5 miles north. I've got a wagon." "Then let's go. Standing here letting people gawk won't get work done." She retrieved a single battered trunk from the stage, lifting it one-handed while the driver watched in amazement, and followed Timmy to his wagon. As she climbed up, the wagon's suspension groaned in protest. Several onlookers laughed openly. "That's your bride, Timmy," someone called out. "Looks like you ordered from the livestock catalog by mistake." More laughter. Timmy's face burned, but before he could respond, Snake Malone's voice cut through the crowd. Now, gentlemen, don't mock young Timmy here. It takes courage to order a freak when you're too weak to attract a real woman, Malone, tall and well-built, stepped forward with the confidence of someone who'd never been challenged. "Tell me, Timmy, does it wear that dress to bed? Or does it have normal clothes for when it's pretending to be human?" Bertha's expression didn't change, but Timmy saw her hands tighten on the wagon's edge. He opened his mouth to defend her and found, as always, that words failed him. The paralysis of confrontation locked his throat. Malone smiled, sensing victory. 90 days, Timmy. Then that farm's mine. Maybe I'll keep the freak as a curiosity. Charge admission." "Let's go," Bertha said quietly. "Now." They rode in silence for the first mile. Timmy wanted to apologize, to explain that he wasn't like Malone, that he didn't think she was a freak. But shame kept him quiet. "You don't have to explain," Bertha said finally. "I know what I am, what I look like. I've heard worse than Malone, believe me. I'm sorry anyway. He had no right. He had every right. This is his territory. We're just trying to survive in it." She glanced at him. "Your letter said you needed strength. I've got that. Let's see if it's enough." The farm appeared as the sun began its descent. A small cabin, a leaning barn, fields that showed more weeds than crops, fencing that had collapsed in several places. Bertha surveyed it all with a professional eye. "How long have you been managing this alone?" 2 years, since my father died. He was the strong one. I'm just—" Timmy trailed off. "Just what?" "Not enough. For this. For anything, really." Bertha climbed down from the wagon, and Timmy saw her really look at the property for the first time, not judging, but calculating. When she turned back to him, her expression had shifted to something almost resembling respect. "You've kept this place running for 2 years? Alone? With your build?" "Barely. Everything's fallen apart." "But it hasn't fallen completely. That's not nothing, Timmy Reeves." She picked up her trunk. "Show me where I'm sleeping. Tomorrow we start fixing things." That night, Timmy offered her the cabin's only bedroom, a small room barely large enough for the narrow bed. He'd sleep in the main room by the stove, as he had since his father's death. Bertha started to protest, then seemed to recognize this was non-negotiable. "Thank you," she said simply. They ate a simple dinner of beans and cornbread. Timmy apologized for the meager fare. Bertha ate 3 helpings without complaint. "Why the wedding dress?" Timmy finally asked, the question that had been burning since she stepped off the stage. Bertha set down her fork. "You want the truth or the story I usually tell?" "The truth. I wore it at my wedding, 10 years ago. To a man who promised to love me despite what I was, who said my size and strength didn't matter." She paused. "He lied. Made it through 6 months before he started hitting me. Told me I deserved it for being unnatural, for tricking him into marrying a monster." Timmy's breath caught. "I left, took nothing but this dress, wore it because it was all I had, but also because it reminded me that someone, even briefly, thought I was worth marrying. Kept wearing it because, I don't know, armor, defiance, reminder that I survived." She met his eyes. "You asked for truth. That's it. I'm sorry that he hurt you, that anyone hurt you. Don't be sorry. Just don't be him. That's all I ask." The next morning, Timmy woke to sounds of work already underway. He stumbled outside to find Bertha attacking the collapsed fencing with systematic efficiency. She was driving posts he couldn't have lifted, her powerful arms swinging the sledgehammer with rhythmic precision. "You should have woken me," he called. "You were sleeping. I was awake. Farm doesn't care who does the work, just that it gets done. Over the following days, Timmy watched in awe as Bertha transformed the property. She repaired the barn's lean, fixed the well pump with a combination of strength and surprising mechanical knowledge, cleared irrigation ditches Timmy had been trying to manage for months. She worked from before dawn until after dark, pausing only for meals. Timmy helped where he could, managing the vegetable garden, tending the few chickens, keeping house, preparing meals. He felt inadequate watching her accomplish in hours what would have taken him weeks, but Bertha never complained or compared. "You're good at planning," she observed one evening. "You see what needs doing and in what order. I just do the heavy work. That's partnership." "You don't mind? That I can't—" "Can't what? Can't lift what I can? Why would I mind that? You can do things I can't. You cook better than anyone I've known. You understand crop rotation. You're patient with the animals." She shrugged. Different strengths serving the same goal. Nothing wrong with that. They developed a rhythm. Bertha handled physical labor while Timmy managed details. In the evenings, they'd sit on the porch, and Timmy would read aloud from the few books he owned. Bertha listened with an attention that suggested she'd been starved for such simple companionship. One night, 3 weeks into their arrangement, Bertha spoke into the darkness. "I need to tell you something about the dress, about why I really keep wearing it." "All right." "Part of what I told you was true, but there's more. I keep wearing it because I'm still waiting, still hoping that someday someone will see me in it and think bride instead of freak. That someone will look past the size and the muscle and see someone worth marrying. Actually worth it, not just desperate enough to settle." Timmy absorbed this. "Is that what you think I am? Desperate enough to settle? Aren't you?" "Maybe I was, when I placed the ad, but now—" He struggled for words. "Now I think I'm lucky. You've saved this farm. Saved me, probably. I couldn't have made it to winter alone." "That's gratitude, not the same thing." "No, but it's a start." 6 weeks in, Snake Malone made his first visit to inspect the property before foreclosure. He rode up with 2 of his men, clearly expecting to find a failing operation ready for easy seizure. Instead, he found fences repaired, fields cleared, the barn standing straight. His face darkened. "You've been busy." "Just maintaining what's mine," Timmy said, trying to keep his voice steady. "For now. You still owe $300 by month's end. That's—" Malone calculated, 12 days from now. "You have that kind of money, Timmy?" "I'm working on it." "I'm sure you are." Malone's eyes found Bertha, who was hauling water from the well. "Though I see you've got help. Tell me, does the freak work as hard in other areas? Or is it just good for manual labor?" Timmy felt rage flash through him, bright and unfamiliar. "Don't talk about her like that." "Or what? You'll fight me?" Malone laughed. "You can barely stand without trembling. The freak might be strong, but you're still the same coward you've always been." Malone and his men rode off laughing. Timmy stood shaking, not with fear now, but with impotent anger. Bertha approached, her expression unreadable. "You tried to defend me. Why?" "Because he's wrong. You're not a freak. You're—" Timmy stopped, surprised by what he was about to say. "You're the best thing that's happened to me." Something shifted in Bertha's face. "Timmy, I mean it. These weeks with you, working together, talking in the evenings, just existing alongside you, I've felt less alone than I have since my father died. You make me want to be braver, better. I'm not what men want in a wife. I'm too big, too strong, too—" too perfect for this life, for me." Timmy reached up so far to touch her arm. "I know we started this as an arrangement, marriage of convenience, but Bertha, I've come to care for you, really care, not despite who you are, but because of it." Bertha's eyes glistened. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying I want this to be real, not just a business arrangement. I'm saying I want you to stay not because you have to, but because you want to. I'm saying—" He gathered courage. "I'm saying I love you. How can you love someone like me? How can I not? You're strong where I'm weak, brave where I'm afraid. You've shown me that worth isn't measured by physical strength or conventional appearance. You've made me see that different can be exactly right." Bertha pulled him into an embrace that lifted him off his feet. When she set him down, both were crying. "I love you too," she whispered. "I've been afraid to say it, afraid you'd realize what a mistake you made. But I love you, Timmy Reeves. You're the kindest person I've ever known." They married properly the next Sunday, a quiet ceremony in the cabin with just the traveling preacher as witness. Bertha wore her wedding dress, properly cleaned and mended. Timmy wore his father's suit. When the preacher pronounced them married, Timmy had to stand on a stool to kiss his bride, which made them both laugh through tears. That night, for the first time, they came together as husband and wife in full truth. Bertha was nervous. Her past marriage had been marked by cruelty, but Timmy was patient, gentle, reverent. When he whispered, "Feel it, my man," against her ear, asking her to share fully in their union, she responded with fierce tenderness. "Only you," he growled with surprising passion, holding her close. "Only ever you." Their coupling was awkward at first, the logistics of their size difference requiring creativity, but it was also tender and genuine. Afterward, lying together in the darkness, Bertha spoke softly. "I never thought I'd have this. Real intimacy, real love. Someone who sees all of me and wants me anyway. I don't want you anyway. I want you because you're you, all of you." 2 days before the mortgage came due, disaster struck. Timmy and Bertha were working separate sections of the property when they heard thunder, except the sky was clear. The sound grew louder, resolving into pounding hooves. Cattle stampede, Malone's herd, driven deliberately toward their property. Timmy saw them coming and ran for the house, but his path was cut off. He scrambled toward a cluster of rocks, trying to reach safety, but the lead steer had already targeted him. He was going to die. The certainty settled over him with strange calm. At least he'd die having known love, having mattered to someone. Then Bertha was there. She'd seen the stampede from the north field and run, not away from danger, but toward it, toward Timmy. She reached him seconds before the lead steer would have trampled him, and in a display of strength that would become territorial legend, she lifted Timmy above her head with one arm while grabbing the lead steer's horns with the other. The animal, massive and momentum-driven, tried to continue forward. Bertha planted her feet and held firm. Then, impossibly, she began to turn the steer. Her muscles screamed in protest, visible even through the wedding dress, but she didn't let go. She redirected the animal, and the rest of the herd followed, flowing around the farm instead of through it. When the dust settled, Bertha still held Timmy aloft, the lead steer now lowing confusedly beside her. She set Timmy down carefully, breathing hard. "Are you hurt?" Timmy couldn't speak, could barely comprehend what had just happened. Around them, townspeople who'd witnessed the stampede emerged from cover, staring at Bertha with expressions of pure shock. She'd just done the impossible, turned a stampede through sheer physical strength, saved her husband's life with a feat most men couldn't manage with teams and ropes. News spread faster than wildfire. By evening, people Timmy barely knew were riding out to see the woman who'd turned cattle with her bare hands. Snake Malone arrived at dusk, his face thunderous. "That was my herd," he said without preamble. "That was attempted murder," Bertha replied calmly. "You drove your cattle at our property deliberately. Everyone saw. You can't prove—" "I can prove I saved my husband's life. Whether that was from your malice or your incompetence doesn't particularly matter to me." Malone's hand went to his gun. Bertha didn't flinch. She simply stood to her full height, and something in her posture, the absolute confidence of someone who just turned a stampede, made Malone hesitate. "The mortgage," he said finally. "You still owe $300 by tomorrow." "We know." After Malone left, Timmy and Bertha sat on their porch in heavy silence. They had $87. They'd come so far, overcome so much, and it wouldn't matter. They'd lose the farm anyway. The next morning, the visitors started arriving. First came the widow Chen, who owned the general store. She handed Timmy $20. "For what your wife did yesterday, that took courage." Then the blacksmith with $15. "Never seen anything like that. Woman's a hero." The school teacher, the doctor, the feed store owner. People who'd laughed when Timmy's bride arrived now came bearing money and respect. Even some of Malone's own ranch hands contributed, having seen firsthand his attempted murder. By noon, they had $290. Close, but not enough. Timmy was calculating whether they could sell the chickens when a final rider appeared, Mayor Pritchard, who'd largely stayed neutral in town politics. "I'm making up the difference," he announced. $10 from my personal funds. Your wife showed this town what real strength looks like. She earned this." When Malone arrived to foreclose, Timmy met him with the full payment and a room full of witnesses. The look on Malone's face was worth every hardship they'd endured. "This isn't over," Malone hissed. "Yes," Bertha said quietly. "It is. You don't control us anymore. And this town's seen who you really are. That might not end your power, but it certainly diminished it." Malone left, defeated, but not broken. They'd made an enemy, but they'd also made something more important, a life. That night, alone again, Timmy and Bertha celebrated with a simple dinner and profound gratitude. Afterward, lying together, Timmy traced patterns on Bertha's arm. "What you did yesterday, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. I couldn't let you die. Simple as that." "It's not simple. You risked your life for mine. You showed strength I didn't know was possible. Physical strength is easy. What you did was harder." "What did I do?" "You stood up to Malone, publicly defended me, loved me when the world said you shouldn't. That's true courage, Timmy. Not muscles or feats of strength, but loving someone despite what it costs you." Timmy pulled her close, this impossible woman who'd saved his life in more ways than one. "We saved each other. That's what partners do." Years passed. The farm prospered. They expanded the property, brought in more livestock, became one of the region's most successful operations. Bertha's strength became legendary, but so did their partnership. People spoke of them not as the freak and the weakling, but as the couple who proved that different didn't mean wrong. Bertha still wore the wedding dress sometimes, though now it was one choice among many in a wardrobe that reflected her complex identity. But she treasured it most because it represented transformation, from symbol of shame to symbol of pride, from costume to truth, from rejection to acceptance. And Timmy, who'd thought himself too weak for the harsh territory, discovered that strength came in many forms, that standing beside someone took as much courage as standing in front of them, that love required not perfection, but presence. Together, they built a life that defied every expectation, the gentle man and the powerful woman, the unlikely pair who saved each other and, in doing so, showed an entire town what real partnership looked like. On their 10th anniversary, sitting on the expanded porch of their expanded home, watching the sunset paint their expanded property gold, Bertha took Timmy's hand. "Do you ever regret it? Sending for a mail-order bride? Getting me instead of whatever you imagined?" Timmy squeezed her hand, his small fingers lost in her large palm, a difference he'd come to cherish rather than notice. "I regret only that I didn't find you sooner. You're not what I imagined, Bertha. You're so much more. You're everything." And in the fading light, the giant bride and her gentle husband sat together, two people who'd been told they were wrong, proving once again that love knows no conventional bounds.